Good morning, my sunshines. Happy Monday. It's like 7:30 in the morning or so just feeling a little cozy, a little hushed, enjoying the morning, and excited to be back here with you for day 4 of this little 5-day mini series about how to deal with noisy neighbors. Dun dun dun. Um, for those of you who don't know, my goal is to have 100 subscribers for this channel because then YouTube lets me name it and have a special URL, which can help more people and help people find it and all that great stuff. And I looked a couple days ago and I had 95 subscribers. Yay! Thank you guys so much. Thank you all. And now it's at 97. Yay! We only have 3 left to go. And so I just thought it'd be a cool way to celebrate how close we were. This particular milestone is definitely within reach, and so I just wanted to offer you this little 5 days of help if you need it with this. I know I did. So noisy neighbors seem to be a pain point for a lot of people, and it just felt like it especially tormented me. I don't know if it's because I have some issues from the past, if I'm extra sensitive, it's because I'm an addict in recovery and my brain just gets crazier than most. It could be all those things, but what I have found is that it's really none of those things. It's that my thoughts create my feelings. And so maybe I just have had a bunch of thoughts that make me feel extra shitty that got cultivated somehow. But the point is, whatever they are, I can identify them today and I can shift them around and I can feel better in any situation. And I want to help you do the same. So, if you want to know what we've been talking about, if you're just joining us, welcome. Day 1, I was just sort of sharing my story and my history with this and how torturous it's been and the various kinds of neighbors from hell that I've had. Day 2, I was talking about this concept and trying to get people on board with it or just expose you to this idea, if it's new to you, that actually the neighbors aren't causing my bad feelings. They're not causing yours either. It's our thinking about them. It's our thinking about the situation, it's our thinking about our role in it, and it's our thinking and the stories that we're telling about what it all means. So, and then yesterday I talked about specific kind of thoughts that are running in my mind that cause the suffering, that have to do with fear, that have to do with being a victim and not having a choice and feeling like I'm trapped. These are all what's actually causing the feelings. So today, day 4, I wanted to share some tools to start to make this shit feel better. And for today, and tomorrow I'm going to share tools as well, like how to actually start to change the negative thinking around. But today I thought it'd be good to talk about some tools to deal with, to think of it as like first aid or when you're in that crisis. Because when I get triggered by the noises, my thinking is happening so rapidly and my body is responding and I'm just like in fight or flight mode and my lizard brain is activated. I'm not thinking rationally. And I'm very often not able to like sit down and do some work and think of some thoughts that will create more positive feelings. I'm usually pissed, and that's when I'm at risk of running outside in my pajamas to like start smashing windows. I have not smashed any windows yet, but I've definitely felt that urge. I have been so angry that I felt like I could just take a hammer and just start smashing through my floor to my neighbor's ceiling and through it to just scream at them to shut the fuck up. That's dangerous, right? Like, I don't want to be that person. I don't feel good when I'm in that rage. So today I want to talk about ways that we can just kind of calm down from that when we're activated, when we're triggered, when we're in that moment of like, oh my God, I'm going to lose it. I just wanted to highlight again that I think I have kind of a special sensitivity to this. Not special, like I'm better than, but like I've had it where the person I was dating came over and I would hear the sounds and I'd be like, oh my God, like it would just, I'd get going and it was so habitual for me to just get riled up by it. And I'd be like, can you even believe it? Can you hear it? And he'd be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. He had to listen closely to hear it. So I was super tuned in to feeling keyed up about this stuff so that even the slightest hint of a neighbor got me going. So that's what this stuff is really addressing. Like, you might not have this intense, severe situation to work with, and that's fine, but this can still help. And if you know someone that's really activated, like I used to work for people who had experienced homelessness, and a lot of those folks really struggled with hearing their neighbors. And I used to be homeless myself, so maybe that's part of it too. Like when you're in your home, finally it can be very I don't know, we haven't lived in the greatest places, and it can just all be a lot to take on. So having said that, that's why some of this stuff feels like we're talking about like a really elevated emotional response that maybe normal people don't experience. So first of all, I want to talk about the first aid piece of it. Like I mentioned, when this is happening, when you find yourself in that heightened state, you need to like soothe yourself back down before you want to do anything. Even if you do choose to like talk to the neighbors or file a report or whatever it takes for you, like only you can be the judge of that, but you're going to be a much better judge of it when you're calm and when you're not in that reactive, angry, volatile state. So, how do we do that? First of all, I really recommend getting yourself some earplugs. I get just like boxes of these little blue foamy guys. You can get them at, like when you go see a band or whatever, they'll give them out. I ordered just a big box of 100, I think, and you can rinse them off and reuse them. I cycle through them and throw them out when they get grimy, but I haven't had to buy a new box in months. So, and I keep those in my pocket. I keep them in my backpacks because I ride the bus and stuff, and I'm a sensitive person, and so those are just really handy to have. So get yourself some earplugs. I have a really loud air conditioner fan unit in the window that I'll turn on right away to kind of muffle, do some white noise over the noise that I don't like. And then, like, if you can afford it, get some decent headphones. I don't have anything fancy like, I'm looking for them. I got the Beats by Dre, the wireless headphones. But just something so you can, like, wireless is really good for me because I can just put them in, throw on some music that I like or a podcast to help me deal with my brain. Something like that. But do yourself the favor and at least try to muffle it out. Have some things on hand to try to block some of that out if you can. The other thing is like get physically removed from it. So if you can, take a walk around the block. That's good for so many reasons. A change in scenery is really good for your brain. The fresh air is really good. The moving your body changes things up chemically, and that can help. Just actually literally getting a new perspective on things can really help things. I've had a lot of times where it almost felt magical when my neighbor was being super loud, and I'd be like, I'm just going to take a walk for 10 minutes. And when I'd come home, it'd be done. And I also, sometimes too, with that, sometimes there's even just a part of the house that's a lot more tolerable. Like with those neighbors that played their video games really loud, I could really hear that in the bathroom and the kitchen the most, but not so much in my bedroom or this space that I'm in now. So even just sucking it up and being like, you know what, my bedroom's too loud because of them, but the living room is fine. I'll just go sleep on the couch for now. That can really help. So trying to remove yourself from the situation for a minute to just get some clarity and some calm is really useful. And then I'm a big person for mantras or just having a thought that I repeat over and over and over again. Because basically when you're really upset and you're riled up, there already is a thought repeating over and over again in your head. And sometimes you don't have to like sit down and figure out what that thought is and like be against that thought. You can just start intentionally practicing a more useful and more helpful thought or mantra. So one that works for me is I'm safe. I'm safe and it's okay. Because it sounds silly, but there's a part of your brain that gets activated, that lizard brain, that fight or flight, that feels like it's going to die. Like it's that old part of our brain that's just looking out, how can we survive? And when you're telling yourself that this noise is unacceptable, we're getting riled up and we're thinking like, oh my God, something really bad is happening. So I'm going to die. I'm in trouble. This sucks. It's unbearable. So just repeating to myself and breathing like I'm safe and this is okay, or something like this too shall pass. This will pass. This can't last forever. This will pass. Because it does. Even the noisiest neighbors gotta sleep sometimes, or they go out and be noisy other places sometimes, I promise. I've never lived in a place where it was just nonstop 24/7 noise. And then I'm big on the Serenity prayer. Like, I'm not a religious person, but I definitely believe in higher power, and I have a spiritual practice, and I am in a 12-step program. That's how I got sober. And the Serenity prayer, now I'm blanking on it, even though I've, like, repeated it a million times. It's like, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I've said this thing, like, just on a repeat, like all pissed off, like, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference, but, and say it again and again. Just something about having something more positive to focus on, even though I don't feel more serene right away, that can help. And then another thing that came with my 12-step program that I learned to do was when I'm agitated, to pause, figure out a way to pause. That can just mean standing still, taking a breath, snapping out of my anger, and asking for a thought or an action. And this has really worked for me. So sometimes I'll say like, what should I do right now? How can I change myself? How can I change? I cannot change my neighbors right now. So asking for a better thought can help. Like sometimes I've had it where it occurs to me to have a more compassionate or loving thought about the neighbors or the situation, or I'll have something that makes me think it's all kind of silly. And I do feel like that's kind of like divine inspiration, like that comes from somewhere outside of me because I was pissed. So that's helpful. But that's where we take control, is where we got to ask for that help, right? And sometimes in asking for a useful action, sometimes I do get the guidance to, calm down and then go talk to them later, or calm down and look for another place to live, or calm down and go for a walk and this will be better when you get back. So just trying stuff like that. Figure out something that feels soothing to you and just practice thinking that over and over. Whisper it to yourself, say it out loud actually, or just think it, something that will get you in a calmer state. And then breathing techniques, like when we're in fight or flight, if you notice what your body's doing, it's getting really tense. Your breathing is getting more rapid. You're breathing more rapidly. There's all these physiological responses that your body's doing because it thinks you either need to start kicking some ass or running away. And so when you start intentionally practicing longer, slower, deeper, intentional breaths, it soothes that part of your brain because it's like, oh, if we're able to breathe like this, there must not be an actual immediate threat. And I can't tell you, it was so fascinating to work with the clients I worked with when I was working at the nonprofit that worked with people experiencing homelessness. It seems like such a simple, obvious thing. And I would say to someone like who was really anxious, hey, let's practice taking a few deep breaths together. And they'd look at me like, what are you talking about? I'm breathing. And I do this too, where I realize like I haven't taken a deep breath all day. And so just pausing to do that and like taking a moment, don't brush it off. Don't dismiss it as silly, like it's just breath. Like it is our breath. And it helps so much, and it helps energy move, and it helps our brains calm down. And so really practicing some of that. Sit down, even just 3 intentional, mindful, really deep breaths, like as deep as you can take. Hold it a couple seconds and then let that all out. You can even visualize all the negative energy going out with the exhale. There's tons of ways to practice breathing techniques. You can Google some stuff, but I highly recommend. Even if all you remember is just to take a deeper breath than you have been, that can be really useful. And that leads me into more with the body that we can do. So, drop and do some yoga poses if you're familiar. Look up a few that you can have that you can just do anywhere, like a downward dog here and there, or just a forward fold. Even just stretching yourself like this a couple times, or like swinging yourself, hit my bike, swinging yourself, like standing up and letting your arms kind of flap and swing. Like our body gets so tense and we hold that emotion, and like shaking that out or moving ourselves really helps shake that energy and that emotion out. And it can get you laughing too. Like if you do something where you're just like shaking everything, or there's qigong techniques where you can like bang on your heart and that's supposed to make you feel happier. You can like bang on your arms and chest, and there's EFT tapping. You can look into that. That's really useful. But sometimes, regardless of what you think is going on with the energy or the qi, just the act of like moving your body in a silly way, doing some high kicks, like punching the air, it can get you laughing and can kind of help you step out of the drama and the outrage of it all. Speaking of rage, there's ways to take it out with art. Get yourself like some crayons or something and some big sheets of paper if you have the space. Get yourself some sidewalk chalk, get yourself whatever, and just like make some aggressive art. Like take all that feeling, take all that outrage and just like put it on the page. That really helps. Just making like big black scribbles can be so useful. Like tear the page up if you need to. Rip paper into shreds. Smash pillows, dance it out. Like there's this, I love the Fitness Marshal on YouTube, and he's got these great dance videos, and you can just like put on some music that makes you feel better or whatever, and like just dance that shit out. And your neighbors are being loud, and if they live below you, it's a great time to be stomping on the floor because fuck it, right? It's loud time. And that's another way that I've used to help myself through this is try to go with the flow. Like if you're starting to calm down and you're starting to get some light around this and some space and you're starting to have a little bit of a sense of humor, sometimes it's been helpful for me to be like, okay, this is the loud time. What do I need to do that's loud that I normally don't let myself do? Like vacuuming. If someone's being really loud during the day, be like, great, this is my cue to vacuum. We're all being loud together. Or I play guitar, so maybe now I'll just like let it rip and I can play as loud as I want, no big deal. Not in a retaliation kind of way. I've tried that. That doesn't work. It doesn't feel good. But it can be useful to just be like, well, this is the loud time. If you have pictures to hang up and it's time to hammer, do that. Get that shit out now while we're all being loud in this place together. And then this is my favorite one to share because it was just fun. I made a game out of it. So this is like a little vintage box that I got. You can find yourself a little container that you like. And what I did was I wrote down on little sticky notes or little sheets of paper things that make me feel better. And the idea was to create a box for myself of things that I will do before I lose my shit, before I react, before I smash on the walls, before I go scream at my neighbors, before I act in a way that I might regret. I just randomly, I wrote all these things that I love and are soothing or can help distract me or can make me feel better. And then I threw them in this box and I challenged myself to pull something out of here and do it and see how I feel after before I freak out. So I'll just pull out a couple to share with you randomly. So see, they're just on little sheets of paper. This one says EFT tapping. If you haven't heard of that, look it up. It's I still feel like, how does this work? But it does work. So visualize. You can't see these, but this one says visualize. So for me, that would mean I set a timer for 5 minutes and I sit and I visualize my ideal life. Our imaginations are very powerful and we create our own realities. And the act of sitting and instead of focusing on what I'm hating, but focusing on what I want to build is so helpful and exciting. And it spurs me to better action, right? Like if I'm living in my future, the future that I'm creating for myself with intention, I don't have time to be as pissed at the neighbors because I'm focused on like where I'm going and where I'm heading and how it's going to get better for me because I'm going to make it that way. I used to pretend whenever I'd hear the neighbors banging around, I used to say like, pretend that's the sounds of the construction on my new dream home, right? And who cares? Like sometimes it's easy to criticize myself and say you're so delusional. Like the reality is that you're poor and you're stuck in this apartment where you can hear everyone. It's like that doesn't have to be true. It can be as equally true that I'm on my way to something much better. And it certainly feels better to imagine that. So I may as well, right? I'll do one more from that box of tricks. This one says declutter. So that was useful. I was thinking about like, all right, I can't control how my apartment sounds right now, but I can control what it looks like. So maybe I would spend some time tidying, beautifying it a little bit. I could light a candle that smells good. I could put on some music that sounds better. There's ways to just proactively focus on the things that make us feel better. So that's a really fun game. I encourage you to try that. Whenever I'd get pissed, it'd just be a cue to just reach in there and pull something out and do it and just see how I felt after. And I think I've always felt better after each one. I don't remember having to do more than one. So there you go. All right, those are all my like first aid tools. And then I would just say too, I know this is getting long. Thank you for sticking with me if you have. Once you've gotten yourself calmer, and you will feel calmer, you will feel better, I promise. You got to practice this shit though, right? Like this takes some effort. It doesn't take a lot, but when you're in that moment, it can feel like I don't want to do anything. I'm miserable. Just push yourself to just try this one thing. I always talk about having a timer. Set a timer for 5 minutes and just say, for 5 minutes, I'm just going to try to feel better and do one of those things that I went over. And then when you are feeling better, I really encourage you to push back with reality. And what I mean by that is when you're getting really riled up about your noisy neighbors, it can feel like it's just always loud and shitty where you are. And what I found was I actually did an exercise where I started making note of when I was hearing the noise and then when it would stop. And I'd make a note. And so I started to keep this tally. And it'd be like from 9 to 9:15, it was really loud and whatever. And this was good for two reasons. For one, keeping track of it was helpful because it was kind of distracting. And it caused me to notice when it stopped, which with my fight or flight activated brain, it was easy to just be Like, even when I was away from the apartment, I'd be on the bus stewing about how loud it was, or I'd be heading home and dreading and wondering if it was going to be loud. So, in a sense, the noisy neighbors were going 24/7 all the time in my mind. But the reality of it, when I started tracking it, was that it did stop and it actually didn't take up most of the time. And in fact, I noticed that, like, this one neighbor, they usually only play their music for like 3 to 5 minutes. I think, I mean, not, there's parties and stuff where it goes for hours, but during the day, I noticed that it tends to just be like maybe they're just getting ready to leave and that's how they get ready. I've been there. So track it for a while, and it feels silly, it feels obsessive, it feels neurotic, but guess what? You're already obsessing and neurotic about the sounds anyways, and this is a really tool to just sort of teach yourself, teach that riled up part of your brain that, hey, this isn't, in fact, happening all the time. And really, it's happening kind of infrequently. And you can just start to reassure yourself, like, okay, I can deal with this. I can handle 15 minutes of this at night. I can handle even 2 hours of party time on Friday nights. You know, there's ways to get around it and there's ways to just soothe. So I think that's everything. Yeah, better be. It's 21 minutes. Holy shit. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe. There's only 3 more of you out there that I need to hit subscribe and we get to 100, and that's exciting. Thank you all so much for being here. I wish you peace and happiness in your homes, wherever they be. And I'll see you tomorrow for day 5 when we're going to talk about tools to actually look at the thoughts that are causing the suffering and how to change those. Today was kind of about distracting and like just getting calmer. Tomorrow we're going to do some next level shit about creating thoughts that are going to help us feel more sane in our homes. All right. I love you guys. Thank you. Bye.